In this clip we're going to cover things to avoid. Now these things are not rules set in stone, but they're basically guidelines just for you to consider. One thing is the use of clichéd lines, like the husband comes home, "Honey, I'm home." Now, he might be coming in and saying that line just to sort of make fun of it being a cliché, and that's fine. But otherwise, you want to try to avoid the obvious and clichéd lines. And another is, at the start of the play, having your character on the phone. So, lights up, and the character talks on the phone. Now, this is a very good way to get across exposition, but it's just the opening up and that talking on the phone for a long time is so overdone that if you can present that exposition in other ways, that'll be to your benefit. Especially when you have theater groups looking at your play for the first time, considering it, and that very first page, the very first thing is someone on the phone, they could toss it right there. Now, another thing you want to avoid doing is mixing styles. You know your audience, but don't fall into the trap of trying to please a wider cross-section. So you have it really a nice light play for some people, but you have some edgy profanity, so you please other parts of the audience, and that way you'll end up pleasing no one. So you want to try to really keep to your particular style. Now, another thing to avoid is writing in way too many props and having it too busy and cluttered. And you want to be careful about edible props, too. Now, it's fine to have the actors eating, but say, for instance, you have a scene at Thanksgiving dinner, it may be far better to have the first scene before dinner and that second scene after dinner while they're having dessert. Now, another thing to avoid is writing too elaborate, complicated, expensive sets. Big special effects and fire can also be a problem. If you include that, there may be a problem with having those kind of effects in the theater. Now, another thing you may want to avoid is too much profanity and strong language, even if it's appropriate for your audience. Sometimes occasional profanity will mean a lot more, will have a stronger impact than if every other line it's swear words and profanity. Now, you need to convey exposition, but you want to avoid conveying it very obviously. You don't want to have the two characters who probably already know this stuff have a conversation where it's obvious to the audience that the only reason for that is to give them the information. Try to think of more creative ways to get that exposition across. Now, you'll obviously base your play on a lot of your personal experiences and people you know, but really avoid including personal jokes or characters or situations that would only be entertaining to people you've experienced that with. Now, one thing I might suggest is to take off your writer's cap for a moment and think like a producer. Stand back, take a look at your play as if you had just gotten that as a submission, and take a look at the problem or excessive areas that may prevent you from producing that. And that may really give you an awareness. So you'll be able to avoid a lot of those things, so it'll be more likely to be produced. So think about avoiding some of these things that we've just gone over. It might really make the difference from your play being accepted or not.